You got away from me all day, but now I'm here. You can't escape. Well, we're just going to get right into it because yesterday I talked way too much. So please welcome back John Romero, co-founder of id Software.
All right. Who wants to talk about code? Yeah, programming, man. C++, C#. Let's talk about Lua.
Yes. Yesterday we had a bunch of people lining up for questions, and we had to turn away a lot of them. So I'm hoping at least some of you came back, and we're just going to get right into it. So have at it.
Hello.
Hello.
So let's talk about programming.
All right, let's talk.
What was the most difficult challenge you had to face as a programmer?
Jeez. I'd say probably trying to write tools quickly, because when you're making a game, if you don't have the tools ready, people are waiting for you, and the game is going to be delayed. So I'd say probably on Doom, when we started working on workstations using Next Step computers and using the Next Step operating system, it was we'd never seen it before, and we were just like coming from DOS, which is just basic MS-DOS, programming in C and programming to the BIOS. And then we go on to a workstation, Next Step, which is basically Mac OS today, is what it was like back then in Next Step. And it was having to learn object-oriented programming, having to learn Objective-C, having to learn display PostScript to put graphics on the screen, and then define like what is the world of Doom's data going to look like, and then writing an editor to be able to draw that stuff and do that all as fast as possible. And I think it took me maybe 3 months to do it because Tom was waiting to be able to make levels. So he was actually using the editor as it was barely getting some functionality to save things out. He was getting to do that. But it was a really amazing operating system to use. And one of the things that we actually put into the editor and then took out was, and this is like 1993, John Carmack was experimenting with distributed objects, is what it's called. So you can actually instantiate an object in memory and have it exist on the network as well. So he had a copy of the editor running, I had a copy of the editor running, and they were both using this new code that when he was editing the same level, I could see him modifying the level on my screen. And I could do level editing as well at the same time, right, with him while he's doing stuff. And I'm like, we can't have this. Like, this is going to be crazy trying to make a level while someone else is making a level, like making stuff in the level at the same time. It just couldn't happen. So we basically kind of disabled that. But that's how powerful Next Step was in 1993, where you could actually have two people editing a level simultaneously.
Cool. And what programming language are you using today on your modern projects?
Geez. Well, we just released a game in Unity, so that's C#. A lot of stuff that I do is in Lua, which is very C-like language, and using Unreal at C++. So it's basically those three languages. I've been playing around with learning Swift 5, just because I love Swift, but I don't spend my time on like any web dev stuff. Just it changes all the time.
Thank you.
I could Google this, but you're right here. The next computers had black and white monitors, didn't they?
The earliest ones until they came out with the color turbo stations.
Okay, so the OS was not in black and white. It just was like a cost-saving thing.
Yeah, the OSs are, it's just the display functionality of the operating system.
Okay.
It was black and white up until they came out with the color, with 16-bit color, and then the operating system supported 16-bit color.
Okay.
It actually supported, I think, 32-bit because they had a Next Cube as well that had even better graphics.
Yes, that much I remember. I was trying to picture how do you program a color game in a black and white. So,
yeah.
All right, it was a different time.
Yeah.
Got it.
Hello again, John.
Hello.
Before I ask you a couple of questions, I just want to tell you that you are the main reason why I'm here in Comic-Con. So thank you so much for attending.
Thank you.
One question I think is going to be about programming, and first one should be, what other passions do you have besides the computer world?
Geez, well, watching movies, definitely. I think everybody here likes watching movies. Last night I watched Hardcore Henry, if anybody has seen that movie. I was laughing most of the time watching that movie. It's insane. I like cooking, actually. You probably wouldn't expect that. I'm Mexican, and I cook Mexican food every day. And I have a pretty nice cook. They call it a cooker in Ireland. It's a stove and ovens and all that stuff, you know, the unit that you cook on. I have a really nice one. It's like 7 feet long. And, you know, you can cook a lot of stuff simultaneously on it. So I make tacos and tostadas and burritos and you name it, you know, rice and calabacitas and just a ton of food all the time.
Now I'm hungry.
And I might be opening a restaurant in the future sometime.
What would you name it?
There's a lot of different names that we're thinking of. We're, what is it? Taco Demon.
I already know what your signature salad's going to be.
Yeah.
Caesar Romero.
Yeah. My uncle. No. I know it, but he was awesome, though. I mean, Caesar Romero was great.
All right, and
He
final
should have been
question.
my uncle.
Obviously, technology has advanced very much in the last 30, 40 years. And what seemed very difficult in the past, especially when you started creating Doom and other games, and what is easier today?
Well, absolutely, it is drawing stuff to the screen. Like back before GPUs arrived in 1997, the entire history has been what is the format of the memory, like how is it displayed, laid out, and then how do I get bytes to the screen as fast as possible, because screen memory is never laid out linearly. Like it's rare if it's like here's byte 0 and it's this pixel. A lot of times it was here's a byte and 7 of those bits are used for information, and like two of the dots, if they're on, you get a white color, and if there's one on and one off, you get purple or you get red. And like there's so many weird formats out there that have been around on every single kind of computer, and then getting stuff drawn to the screen as fast as possible, getting bytes blasted out there, is its own world of optimization and just techniques to do that, like tons of techniques. So many techniques that I got so good at recognizing a lot of that stuff that I could look at a game back in the 80s on, let's say, an Apple II, because on an Apple II you had to do all of that yourself as well. There were no sprite engines. There was no hardware assist on an Apple II. So I could look at an Apple II and I could tell you, that's probably Olaf Lubeck who wrote that game, because he's using the extra for these characters, and they move in this certain way, which is what he does in his other games. So I could actually identify, just from looking at the way stuff was drawn to the screen, who wrote the game, just because I played everything back then. It's pretty funny. Like I didn't mean to like make everybody talk about programming, but it's like when you come on stage, what can you do if you're a programmer? You can't grab a guitar and go like, yeah, code. Like it doesn't exist. It's not cool. So what else are you gonna do? Talk about programming? I guess it's boring. Unless you're a programmer and you want to know the answer.
Not for me, but thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you. Greetings. So firstly, I wanted to apologize to you that I never wrote the review for Gunman Taco Truck. I'm ashamed that I got the key from you, but had some personal issues that year, and eventually the review never got posted.
No worries. The game, when the game came out, Apple featured it 3 times, so we were pretty lucky that they just recognized it and put it in the apps that we love section, which means it stayed on the front page of the App Store for a week. And we had no relationship with Apple. They just saw the game and chose it because it's crazy.
It's a good concept, yeah. Why didn't you think about a sequel or a spin-off?
Well, we did. It's called Gunman Ice Cream Truck. We just haven't done it because you're in Winnipeg now. You start in Winnipeg, They have lots of ice cream there, and they don't have ice cream down in like in the U.S. that's burning hot. So that was the sequel was going to be Gunman Ice Cream Truck.
Maybe someday.
Yeah.
So now that you mentioned your other hobbies, why don't you make a cooking show where you make metaphors about programming and cooking?
It's funny. Somebody had just talked about that before I came here. Like, why don't you get on Twitch and like play some games and then move the camera into the kitchen and start making food? And then people go, what?
That would be cool.
Yeah. He's making enchilada sauce for some reason. And he just like fragged some people in Doom.
Thank you.
Program the robot arm to add the spices.
Yeah, I programmed all of my recipes into my kitchen. It makes it itself.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
During the development of Quake, how did each designer's thought process affect the level design?
Which process?
The thought process. You mentioned Lovecraftian influences yesterday.
Oh, yeah. The Lovecraftian influences didn't affect the level design so much as the character creation, like creating Shub-Niggurath at the very end, creating Cthon, having characters like the Scrag or the Vor, who were just disturbing, weird characters. That definitely came from Lovecraft. And the designs of the levels had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with, let's make some spaces that no one's seen before, that are within a specific design style per episode / per dimension. So those dimensions were assigned to a specific designer, and then everything was designed in that style, and the texturing was for that style. So American McGee, who did the third episode, iron and lava, like that's that whole episode. And then Sandy, who did the fourth episode, was all about great puzzles and like setups for monsters and traps and puzzles, and the look of it was like whatever. It didn't even matter what it looked like. But he did use a specific type of look in that episode, but it was all about the gameplay in that episode. And it was very different. So when you went through the first 3 episodes, the gameplay was like you kind of expected the type of gameplay in the first 3 episodes, and then you get to the 4th and it's totally changed up. And that was really cool to end the game with Sandy's stuff being very different. But it was the architecture and stuff in the level design was all down to gameplay, and it was not influenced by any Lovecraftian stuff.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Now, as far as the characters go, I remember in Doom, a lot of your characters started as real 3D sculptures.
Yeah.
You do clay, you do mannequin.
Yeah, like created latex metal models.
Yeah, so the brain with the metal legs.
Spider demon, yeah.
That was awesome. Did you do any of that for Quake, especially with the Lovecraftian characters?
Yeah, we didn't because
you could go all digital by then,
we're doing
right?
full 3D, and in Doom was sprites. So we were just looking at silhouettes and being able to edit the pixels out fast. And with Quake, because it was full 3D, there wasn't a good process for figuring out, well, how are we gonna break that down into certain triangles, you know? So we decided that we're gonna not use the Doom style, video capture, but we're going to use actual 3D modeling software. And at that time, Silicon Graphics machines were the ones that had the best software. It was called Alias Wavefront. So we used Alias on Silicon Graphics Indigo machines. Yeah, so we're using Indigos an Indigo for the art, for the modeling, and then Next Step to develop the game, and then DOS to run the game.
Was it Wavefront with the OBJ, or that was Lightwave?
Lightwave.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it was Lightwave.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
It's very nice to be here and listen to all you have to say about the gaming industry. It's very interesting. I'm a programmer myself. I'm not really a gamer, but I thought about the gaming industry at some point, and I've read online that a lot of people burn out after 5 to 10 years, and it's a very tough field. And I was wondering, what is your experience with this, and what advice would you have to better deal with tight deadlines and all the stress that comes with this?
Well, it's kind of different when you're a programmer, I think, at least if you're a self-driven programmer, because there's always something new to learn, and it's always exciting, and technology is always changing. There's always new versions of engines coming out. There's always new features coming out. And as a programmer, you can't help but be excited and learn about that stuff, and that's what actually keeps you going in the morning. Like when you want to get to work, you're excited because there's this cool new thing that you're going to create, and that's the thing that makes it exciting. For me, it's been 42 years I've been making games and programming. And I remember working when I was 20 years old, and my boss at the time said that most programmers burn out by the time they're 30. Like, you won't even be around in the industry. And I'm just like, I just got started. There's no way. I just made so many games before I got to like work there, and I couldn't imagine not continuing to learn and do cool new stuff. And he was totally wrong. You know, like, I'm obviously still going. There's so much to learn now. There's like an explosion. Beyond the 80s, everything blew up. And there are so many frameworks now. There's so many languages and so many platforms to write for. Games are so much bigger than they ever were back then. You know, now you can actually focus on pure design, where back in the 80s it was all about technique and programming you had to focus on. And so as long as you're making goals for yourself, like your goal could be, I just want to get really good at AI and deep learning, or you know, you want to get good at machine learning, you want to get good at rendering, you want to be a graphics programmer and specialize in shaders. Like, there's so many ways that you could specialize and go down those paths, and then just switch whenever you're ready. Like, okay, I've learned so much here that I could get a job at any time doing this. Now I'm going to switch over to this other thing. And then you're challenged all over again from day one on brand new stuff. And all of that stuff feeds into any game that you're going to make. You know, and at some point you're just going to know so much that everyone will want you to just run teams. And you have to fight that. You have to, like, you stay as a senior programmer doing something before you become like a lead where you're having to manage people. As long as you can stay senior, you know, then you can actually keep on doing stuff and making stuff. But yeah, there's so much opportunity that I have no idea how anyone would get burnt out or done. You know, like, I just did a game jam a couple of weeks ago, over a week. It was a 3-day game jam. We even went into Monday, and it was 17 hours, 18 and a half hours, each of those days. And we made some awesome stuff. And it's like everybody was so excited doing it. Nobody was tired at the end. We just knew that we had to get to sleep because we wouldn't wake up the next day.
Was this before or after Red Bull?
We didn't drink any Red Bull. Yeah, no Red Bull. No energy drinks at all, really. We're just like, programming is that cool that we don't need Red Bull. Yeah, it is. It's amazing. Yeah, so just keep on learning.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You can't get mad at the guy making the deadlines if you're the guy making the deadlines.
That's right.
Or you can, but that's a therapy thing. So.
Good day, Mr. Romero.
Hello.
Good day, Mr. Romero. So my first question is, do you remember the Doom movie? Do you remember it?
The bad memories?
Exactly. So how disappointed were you? I mean, I remember the part where the guy is like, "This is hell," and I mean, yeah, it is kind of hell. But where is the hell? You're not in hell. Doom is supposed to be in hell. Where is hell? Where are the fires? Where can you find the devil?
I know.
I mean,
What about the Bioforce gun? Yeah.
oh my God!
Bioforce.
Oh Jesus! Oh no! Disgusting.
It was. It was horrible.
I mean, Dwayne Johnson and all of that, but let's be honest. This was
Terrible.
Couldn't you even include the Doomslayer?
I know.
I mean, there was the second movie as well.
Annihilation. Yeah.
Annihilation. I looked at the monsters. I look at all of the creatures. This ain't familiar.
Nope.
This ain't familiar. From where is this?
Yep. They just invented it.
Ah, Jesus.
Horrible.
So how, from a scale to 1 to 10, how horrible was it? That whole
It was one.
Series.
You know,
One.
it was one. Yeah,
One,
it's
yeah,
bad.
Yeah, I would put a 0.5.
Like I like Roger Corman movies.
Yeah,
much
I
better
would put
than
a
that.
0.5. I would put a 0.5.
0.5.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the actor's fault. It's because of all the screenwriting and all of that. But couldn't you follow the source material more?
I know.
Really?
Yep.
Jesus.
Yeah, and we were talking to. We actually signed the rights to Universal in 1994, and Ivan Reitman, the director of Ghostbusters, was going to do the Doom movie.
Really?
I've never heard of it.
Yes. Yeah, he was going to do the Doom movie in 1994, and then it just kind of stalled for 12 years.
I think he would have made a better job.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it's Ghostbusters.
I know.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, Doom is obvious, and they should have just replicated it.
Yeah.
But maybe it was difficult to get to the screen the way that Doom 2016 was difficult to adapt to the modern audience and modern hardware.
Yeah. So another question. My other question is, how did you come up with Doom, and what was like your legacy? Was the team like, yo guys, let's make Wolfenstein, but in hell?
Nope. No, actually, we played Dungeons and Dragons a lot.
Really?
Yeah, we had a campaign going for years, and that campaign ended when demons flooded the material plane that everyone lived on and destroyed everybody. And it took about a month of playing before everything was destroyed and the whole world was ended. And then that was in 1991, I believe, when that happened. And then after Spear of Destiny, when we were thinking about the next game, we're like, demons overrunning the world actually is a pretty cool idea.
Pretty cool, yeah.
So that's what we did. We decided to use that.
Wait a minute. But in Doom Eternal, if the original Doom, the original Doom, and then we take a look at Doom Eternal, was the world run by demons 2 times? I mean, first of all, in the first Doom, demons came, yeah, let's kill humans. Doom Eternal, yeah, we came again, let's kill humans. What happened?
Well, Doom 2016 is a remake of Doom 1.
Really?
Doom
I didn't
Eternal
know.
is a remake of Doom 2.
Yeah, because it's the sequel. It's
Exactly.
The sequel, I forgot.
I'm actually waiting for the
Is there
next
a
Doom,
Doom 3?
which might be. Well, no, there was already a Doom 3. Remember?
Yeah, but the new Doom 3.
We're talking about Doom 6 is what we're talking about.
Doom 6.
So I want to see that Doom because that'll be original.
Original Doom. Pretty cool. So, speaking of original Doom and recreating all of the series, are you going to recreate Wolfenstein?
You
No?
mean a newer Wolfenstein?
What?
A new Wolfenstein?
Maybe a remake, maybe a new. Who knows?
Yeah, they've already remade Wolfenstein. There's a lot of Wolfensteins out there now.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, have fun.
Microphone.
Okay, I didn't want to be the bad guy and tell him to sit down, but
Yeah.
a round of applause
Good
for
job.
this guy. He's got a future ahead of him. He reminds me so much of me, especially when you put a microphone in his hand.
Hello. First of all, welcome to Romania.
Hello, thank you.
And I have a few questions. I'm going to try to keep it short. First of all, how does it feel being basically the parent of modern first-person shooters?
Very cool, because I love playing them.
Also, how was the process? Like, Doom 3 was released in 2004, if I remember
Yes,
correctly.
yeah.
So how was it so long of a jump from 2004 to Doom 2016?
Well, there was a big jump between Doom 2 and there was 10 years between Doom 2 and Doom 3. And there was, between Doom 3, which is 2004, and 2016, there's 12 years there.
Yeah.
It had multiple games going on. If you remember, there was a game called Rage that they were working on.
Yeah.
So that took up the whole team for years. So that's a big chunk of the gap. And then when they decided that they're going to do a Doom sequel internally, they spent 7 years on that. And they rebooted the game 4 times because it wasn't good enough yet. And then finally, in 2014, they had solidified the design for the shipping of the game 2 years later, and they gave a preview of that at QuakeCon, and everyone lost their minds because it was amazing. So they knew that they had hit it correctly in 2014, and all they had to do was execute on that design and finish the levels and get the game done, and that's how 2016 came out. But yeah, it was like a lot of years for Rage, 7 years for Doom 2. That's what ate up all those years from 2004.
Fair enough. And I have a more spicy question. What is your opinion on the predatory microtransactions the companies do in gaming nowadays?
Like loot boxes, you mean? Like
loot
kind of
boxes, battle passes, everything from, including with the CSGO cases and stuff.
Well, I think that anything that you are going to buy should be cosmetic. It shouldn't affect gameplay. I think that a lot of even the cosmetics that you buy should be gettable in the game itself, and it should tell you that you can get this in the game before you buy it. Like if you're going to buy it, you have a dialogue that comes up and says, you can get this in the game. It doesn't need to tell you where, but just to tell you the possibility exists to get it, so you don't actually have to buy it now. And then really it comes, and then at that point, most of the people who are spending money are spending it to save time. They don't have the hours to pour into the game, to go into every nook and cranny, to get every final piece of gear. They want to just shortcut that and spend the actual money and just get the gear without putting the time in. But as long as you're telling the player what's going on, then to me it feels very fair. And it's also not like in using in-game currency that you can earn in the game is also a good thing.
Okay. And one last question. Do you think...
Greetings, John.
Hey.
I have a question for you. If you were in the place of Doom guy, Doom 1, 2, could you survive the events? Could you survive? Do you think you could survive?
Yeah, if I was Doom Guy. Yeah, because Doom Guy destroys everything.
All the way to Eternal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Doom Guy. Just use the BFG over and over again.
Yeah. Thank you. I like your hair, by the way.
Thanks.
Have a nice day.
So hello, John.
Hello.
My question, I'm going to keep it simple, is you've mentioned that during this whole development process, there's been a shifting from dealing with technical difficulties to dealing with design itself. How much do you feel this has impacted the game enjoyment? Because a lot of the old games, people say it's so much fun because of the creative outlet that the people who had to overcome the difficulties came with.
Well, constraints are good a lot of times, when you're making stuff, because it makes you stretch and do things that are probably unconventional. But when there's a sweet spot for constraints, and being too constrained means that you can't do very much. You're limited in the amount of things that you can do. Being fully unrestrained is actually pretty great as long as you restrain yourself to having a clear vision and a really tight design. It's really important to focus on what you're going to deliver and what the experience is going to be, and just really hold to that. Because a lot of times people will just try to create anything and the game will take forever and then it'll fail, and it's just kind of a thing that happens with inexperience. But if you actually have the opportunity to build something on today's hardware, keeping your focus on what is the goal of this game, how can I deliver that experience, don't go nuts, try and finish it within this amount of time. All that stuff is really good, and even have producers, that can actually sit there and keep you on schedule. That's really the best way to avoid any of these crazy pitfalls that happen during development.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Hello, John.
Hello.
So this is a question from a level designer to a level designer. And my question is, do you think that nonlinear level design is a lost art nowadays? Because the only AAA game that I can think of is Doom 2016, and then Doom Eternal became more linear for some reason.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing is, Call of Duty kind of started the linear path of levels because it's supposed to be more of a spectacle and more of an art show when you're on a track, going from place to place. And Call of Duty is all about objective-based movement through the game. And whenever you jump in a tank or in a Jeep or whatever and you're getting moved from one place to another, you're on a track. You can go ahead and be a turret and shoot stuff. But that is because the design of that game is about being like the players in a movie. And they're in an action movie mowing stuff down. So that's the experience that they are delivering because that's what people are responding to. But doing level design where people have lots of choices and there's a lot of puzzle design in the environments and stuff. To me, that's more fun as a player to explore and try and solve the situation while doing combat, or doing stealth, like playing stealthy. But yeah, it's not so much a lost art. It is maybe in the biggest franchises, but there's still a lot of different ways that level design is going nowadays. Like when you talk about an open world game, you can't have the big puzzles, right? Like because you have a whole planet that you're trying to build. You can have small localized puzzles. You can have the player like drive up to a house and then like, how do I even get in there, and have a really interesting environmental puzzle around that. But there's so much, like the games environments have changed so much now that there's lots of ways to deliver certain kinds of experiences. And for me, I still like to have puzzles, and like I wouldn't want to just like have a house there and just like walk into it. I want that to be figure out how to get in the house. Like you probably can't even get in it now because you don't have the stuff that you need. But I like to have like designs that are intertwined that way. But yeah, I'm not disappointed at all because not every game does Call of Duty linearity. And there's a lot of really good stuff out there. So I like to choose the games where it feels a little more old school in the play. But I also enjoy like large outdoor, large scale open world games like Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
Thank you.
Hey man, long time no see.
Yeah.
So my question sort of piggybacks on our programmer friends here. I have a background in game development, but I'm extremely disillusioned with the industry. So given that, my question to you is what makes for a great game designer?
Well, great game designer has played a ton of games, and they've like tons of systems. A great designer should be able to look at a game and break it down into all the systems that exist in that game. And like, here are the systems that exist, and here's how these systems are designed. Break down those designs. Be able to create a design doc from looking at a game. And then just really internalizing and understanding why the systems work, how things are balanced, how balance works. In fact, my wife's latest book just came out 1 week ago. It's called Game Balance, and it's the only book on game balance. And it's like that many pages. It's like 600 to 700 pages. It's huge. But balance is unbelievably important to games, because if you don't balance a game, it's either too hard or too easy. It doesn't have enough pressure. There's not a good ramp. And all that stuff is really important. So as a game designer, you should also fully understand how a player should ramp through the experience, how to create a game that reveals a tutorial without telling you, dragging you by the nose through it, just making it contextual tutorials. Like you just tried to do something and the game will tell you something about it because you didn't try that before.
Not Legend of Zelda.
Yeah. Definitely. So yeah, there's a good game designer should have like an infinite amount of designs ready to go. Like you should be able to just design something new on the spot in seconds. Just somebody says, here are the parameters, blah blah blah, and you're like, wow, how about a game that does this? And you should just be able to come up with that. So I've had game ideas just ripped off from me before, because like in Silicon Valley, if you say your idea, it's now out there, and it can be immediately implemented by any company. Like you could be talking to someone at lunch, and the person next to you actually is working at a game company, and maybe they're looking for an idea, and they hear your idea because you're just doing something brand new and you're pitching, and they will immediately get a Chinese company that has a game that's almost finished being made and have them reskin it and get it out there before you. And all of a sudden, like, your game idea just got ripped off. As a designer, that shouldn't bother you because you can just, you're the well of ideas. Like it never stops. Like go ahead, steal that idea. I got 10 more already. So yeah, being like massively creative is pretty essential for a game designer. But also like being deep on systems is great. Like if you're a combat designer, understanding real-time combat systems, turn-based combat systems, conventions with different kinds of controllers, the way that, you know, combat on consoles is usually slotted around the player versus a PC where it's anything goes, stuff like that. There's so many of these things all over the place, how you construct them. It's just a ton of learning and just understanding all that stuff or knowing how you would learn that stuff as fast as possible, you know, like knowing how to look up the information.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
I just want to pause here for a quick commercial break. When you were talking about playing outdoor games, does that include survivalist games? Like they just released one called Open Country?
Yeah,
you
Ark and
you know the name? Okay. Anybody here hear this game just been released, Open Country? I think it's from 505 or something, the Italian company. Well, the only reason I'm mentioning it is because I'm not going to come right out and tell you who did the voice of the main character. But if you want to hear what it sounds like when they take a guy from New Jersey who's living in Romania and tell him to sound like a Texan, this is the game to check out. I'm home.
Is it like Far Cry 5? Like Far Cry 5 was in the woods in North Carolina?
I have no idea. I mean, you know, my video game experience kind of began and ended with your
Doom.
your heyday there. Yeah, you shoot things. You shoot bears. You shoot deers. You shoot other people who are shooting.
Other people who are shooting bears.
It gets a little gamey there. So I'm sorry. Please.
Yeah.
Hi, John.
Hello.
If you're in development for a true Doom 2 sequel, in which new direction would you take the franchise? Like new weapons, new demons, new gameplay features?
Yeah, I would definitely do new weapons, which is great that Doom Eternal created some new weapons. I would have new types of demons. I would have new weapons. Like, incrementally, how do you take the series forward? You definitely improve the parts of the series that everybody loves, right? Weapons and enemies. Add some new pickups. Add some actual powers that matter, you know? And then create a new place where hell would be invading that's important to humans, you know, and take the story in that direction. Maybe add some bad humans into it that are helping the effort, you know. Like if a bad human was purposely setting up the Phobos teleporter to bring, like instead of bringing stuff from another moon, they dialed it into hell, that would be a bad human. So if they did something like that in the next Doom, where somebody is actually using hell and targeting specific parts of the world because of natural resources or who knows what, you could have a story around that as too. But then you're incrementally improving all the things that make Doom great.
Thanks.
Hello, John.
Hello.
So I have a question. What do you think about the current game industry and the way they're forcing their new projects to come out without actually finishing it and forcing crunch on the team, even self-crunch? For me, for example, I'm a programmer as well, and I had a couple of months ago a lunch, and I just went 18 hours a day because it was a lunch and we had bugs. What do you think this trend is going to do to the gaming industry?
Well, there have been some high-profile failures with rushing games out, and it's been very public. The executives who made those decisions getting in trouble, and the people working on the teams being vocal about what they were pushed to do. So that all that information and things now being outed about bad behavior is really great for just development or you know anybody at work in general. So maybe it's gonna tone down. You know, we'll get Activision and the other big companies to stop trying to rush stuff out just because it's almost Christmas. You know, because Christmas is where all the executives go crazy to get something out because you sell everything in that fourth quarter. Like your whole year is made up in that fourth quarter, and they just push stuff out. But it's like if you're going to push something out in that fourth quarter and the game's not done, you have to figure out like half a year earlier, at least, how to stop development on the game and make it solid from then to ship, so nobody has a buggy experience. Even if there's content missing or features not in there, you know, plan those for post-launch DLC, but make the game work perfectly on launch. It's worth it to all the players, and people know that games are going to launch and get more content after launch, so why are you trying to rush the original design out for Christmas when you could just deliver some of that original design post-launch and just make the game super stable and not make your whole dev team crunch for who knows how many months, you know?
Money.
Yeah, but you're not going to make more money if there's a system that hardly anyone uses, but they push everybody to put it in. You know, it's like there needs to be some really smart decision making around this is the core of the game, and these are the things that give this IP its identity. So we've delivered that. We can deliver it by, you know, May or June, and at that point we stop putting in new features and we just start making this game solid. You know, you pay off your technical debt, you fix everything. And by the time that you are launching, you don't have bugs. QA can't find anything. Everything feels balanced and good. And then post-launch, you have a really solid foundation to build your new content on or your new systems on. And nobody's going to get mad that you didn't just pack everything in there.
Yeah. And what was the most frustrating platform to work with?
Well, I'd say frustrating was probably double high res on the Apple II. That was horrible to program that.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, why pay for beta testers when there's so many out here? They won't even do it for free. They'll pay you.
Yeah.
So.
Hi, John. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, thanks.
I was wondering, what do you think of Wolfenstein 2009? And to piggyback on a previous question, would you consider making Doom 3 after Sigil 2? Your version of it, a proper Doom 3?
After Sigil 2? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think you can do it at the same time, but afterwards.
I already have plans for what that might be. I can't say what it is, though.
I'm glad I've asked that question then. And talking about Sigil 2, one final question. Would you take song submission for your Sigil 2 levels somehow?
Not really, because I think people want to play stuff I've made. It wouldn't be hard for me to say, hey, everybody, make a bunch of cool levels and I'll put them in Sigil 2.
No, I was
you know
talking about music, not levels.
Oh, music? No,
yeah.
it's all Buckethead.
Oh, okay.
It's already Buckethead.
Okay, and did you like Wolfenstein 2009?
Yeah, New Blood, yeah, Old Blood, all that stuff is New Colossus and Old Blood. They're really great. Young Blood. I love the direction. Machine Games can't do anything wrong.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, John.
Hello.
I was wondering, how was your experience with Steve Wozniak at the Apple II reunion party?
Great, because he's a friend of mine. So he's awesome, and he pops up every once in a while. Like we go out to eat every once in a while when we're in Silicon Valley. He speaks at conferences all over the world. So if I speak at like development conferences that have nothing to do with games, like We Are Developers is an example of that, and Woz will go to that, and so he'll keynote it, and we'll meet up, you know, because he's going to do some photo shoots or whatever, and I'll come over and, hey buddy, what's going on, you know, and anyway, he's still super brilliant person, and just as excited now as he was 40 years ago, like nonstop talking. He's amazing. I remember when I was having dinner with him one time, I was just like, so I think it was probably 2008 this one time, and I was like, so what do you think about memristors? And he's like, oh, memristors is so great, like you wouldn't believe, you know. So he already knows like what's going on, and memristor technology still hasn't hit today. Into like what? 13 years later, memristor technology hasn't really hit today in electronics, but it'll change everything when it's actually integrated fully.
I see. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Hi, John.
Hello.
What is your opinion on Doom 64?
I loved Doom 64. When we did PlayStation Doom, we told Midway You're a game company that has been around for 30 years. You know what you're doing. Here's Doom. Do something cool with it on the PlayStation. It doesn't have to be the exact thing that we've been porting to all the other systems. So they did a really amazing job. You know, all new music by Aubrey Hodges, really great level designs, and it was just like, okay, yeah, Harry Teasley and the levels, like everything was so good that when Doom 64 was an idea for the N64, we were like, do it again. Do whatever you want. Take the Doom monsters and the name and all this, just make something cool. And Aaron Seeler and Sukru Gilman were the two leads on that project, and they came to Texas and had like a little bitty office right across from ours just so they could be really close to ask us questions about the renderer or how to optimize for the chip that's in the N64, like how do we take the assembly language optimizations that we did in 8086 and how do we like translate them over to a completely different processor, memory layout, you name it, just all the very technical stuff. And Aaron just had a blast being that close to this, the source of all the Doom stuff instead of usual the process where the company is porting it is in a different state somewhere or maybe even a different country and they don't really have that access. So having them like right across the hall from us was really was super useful for making Doom 64 a really good game.
Thank you.
Hello there, John.
Hello.
First of all, big fan. Wanted to ask you if you'd like a bit of an oddball question, but would you ever return to ideas such as Daikatana?
Oh, for id, so id would never do a Daikatana 2, ever. I don't think anybody would. I mean, I liked Daikatana. I didn't think it was a brilliant game, but it was like it wasn't as bad as people said. And with the version 1.3 patch that came out, they fixed all the annoying stuff that people were complaining about. But I have so many ideas for games, I would never spend my time on a sequel to it because I have just way too many ideas for other games.
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Greetings, sir. It's a pleasure and an honor to meet you. I have another question regarding the lore of Doom. Is the whole reason why Doom guy is going berserk his cute little bunny?
Yeah, because, no, he's already mad, right? He's mad at the end of Doom for Doom 2, right? So he went through Doom not knowing Daisy was destroyed. And then he's really pissed for Doom 2. But yeah, so he's basically taking a berserk pack, which is like probably hardcore Harry, like, you know, Henry, like 5 adrenaline bursts per leg at once. And then just punching things into jibs.
Thank you.
All right.
Hello, John.
Hello.
I wanted to say thank you for the photo yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about the Wolfenstein and Doom connection between Blazkowicz and the Doom guy.
Well, let's see. Commander Keen is the grandson of B.J. Blazkowicz. And Doom Guy is the son of, I believe, Keen. Yeah, there's maybe one or two generations there, but they're all related.
Oh. And I wanted to ask if you watched Markiplier play the Doom.
Say that again?
If you watched Markiplier, he's a YouTuber.
Markiplier
Yes,
playing Doom?
yes.
I don't know if I've seen that.
Oh, he loves the game very much.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to check out YouTube and see any Doom Markiplier videos. I think he's pretty funny.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks. I love you too. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
A few days ago, just in time for QuakeCon, a lot of us who already own Quake got a free update that pretty much remade the whole game. Are you aware of that?
Say that again? Closer, yeah.
Yeah. In time for QuakeCon,
Okay.
they remade Quake, and it got a free update for people who already own Quake.
Yes.
Are you aware of that?
Oh,
Aware
yeah.
of that?
Yeah, I was aware of that because id asked me last year if I would actually make some levels for it. I didn't have time to do that. I told them I would love to do this, but I just don't have the time. I got way too much. I was shipping a game, you know. There's no way. So, but if I do something in the future, they're interested. So I am planning at some point to make a Quake episode and then release it kind of like Sigil. It'll be a different name, but I'll do that because I love Quake.
And what do you think about it as a port itself?
Great. They've done just an amazing job. Basically, just like the Doom source ports, there's so many flavors of those things out there. And Quake has some really cool options. You know, there's Dark Places that looks amazing. Tenebrae, which is like super high-res stuff. Quake Spasm, which is true to the original for single player. N-Quake is amazing for multiplayer Quake world feel. And there's a bunch of other ones out there. So, I personally use Quake Spasm for single player and N-Quake for multiplayer. And for Doom, I use GZ Doom.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Just so you know, we received a 5-minute warning, so let's see if we can get this all done.
Just a quick question. I want to know, what do you think is the most underrated Mexican food?
Well, it's going to have to be Mexican food that most people don't eat, because if you go to Mexican restaurants, even in Tucson, Arizona, which is the only UNESCO World Heritage Site for gastronomy, is Tucson, Arizona. Even there, you won't find something like calabacillas on the menu. And I'd say that's probably one of the biggest underrated dishes is calabacillas. You haven't had it before.
It's true, I haven't had it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Well, if it isn't my old friend, Swiss cheese. Oh, God, I'm going to have a heart attack.
It's just a simple question.
Well, I have 3, but I think the most important one is, what shampoo do you use?
I was wondering that myself.
It's funny because I get this all the time. There's always a hair question during any session. And the funny thing is, doesn't matter what the shampoo or the conditioner is. I don't really care as long as it does the job. And so the reason why I have hair like this is because I'm Cherokee and I'm Yaqui, I'm Native American, and it's just genetic. So it's not really up to me.
May I ask one more?
Yeah.
Well, this one's a bit dark, but how do you feel about being branded by a game you made 27 years ago? Has it affected your creative output in any way?
No, I'm not making Doom games. I'll make some Doom levels in my spare time with Sigil, but between creating Sigil and when I made Doom 2 are decades. It doesn't affect my creativity. I made so many games since then, like Ravenwood Fair, if anybody's played that. It's a super cute Facebook game. It has nothing to do with Doom. And I've actually been at events where I'll get Ravenwood Fair questions from the mother of the kid who's asked me about Doom questions at the same event. So I've made a huge range of games. It's all pure game design. It's not tied to a specific IP that I've created. I'm used to making new IP all the time, so I'm creating new IP right now. It's funny because I've heard people, I get comments, Romero only talks about Doom or Quake, and I'm like, that's because everybody keeps asking me about it. What do you think? I'm not going to go, so in Doom, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, I don't talk about Doom anymore, ever. I won't do that, I can just imagine if I wanted to ask somebody about a game that I loved and they didn't want to talk about it, I'd think they're bizarre.
Hey, even Kiss will still play rock and roll all night.
That's right. Yeah, that's where they came from.
All right, we're going to move this along because somebody snuck in here after the warning.
Hi, John.
Hello.
So during the development of the Daikatana game, your PR team created the infamous poster. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
My question is, did you know about it? Did you get any backlash from it?
So So we have a PR team that was in New York, and they handle PR. I have a chief marketing officer at the company in the building. That's the person who wanted to do the ad. He directed the agency that does all of our marketing materials and our packaging, and that woman was Sasha Shore, and she created all of the Quake stuff. You see the Quake logo, the Quake box, all that stuff. She created the font. She created everything for Quake. She also created all of Iron Storm's logos, every single like Anachronox and Deus Ex and everything. She created all of that stuff. But she also created the ad that she was told to make, which she made and Mike Wilson brought to me to look at. And I'm like, I wouldn't say that. And he's like, John Romero's about to make you his bitch. I've never said that to anybody, and I wouldn't say that to anybody. But anyway, he basically just said, like, don't be a baby about it. And I was like, well, I guess I'll trust your marketing instincts since you're my chief marketing officer, and I hope it ends well. And it didn't. But that was me trusting his instincts, and it was a bad idea.
Thank you.
Okay. I am so sorry, but we just really have run out of time. I know you know where I live. I'm in trouble. But one thing you don't want is a bunch of angry K-poppers.
Sorry. Thanks for the
We're
thought.
going to let him go. Everybody, John Romero, thank you so much. Thank you,
you.
everybody. I hope you had a great con. There's more to come. We still have cosplay. That's why I'm looking like this. So we will see you again very soon. Thank you.
All right. You will talk about code next time. See ya.